Whoa, we're taking a video. Oh my god, oh my god. Hi guys. Welcome or welcome back to Try Adjust Thrive. I'm your host, Oksana Vares, and I'm so happy to be here. So this is the podcast where we just talk about life. We talk about all things under the sun, really. I don't really want to limit or niche down this podcast because as I grow and change, so will it. So yeah, I'm kind of poo-pooing on I love saying poo-poo. I'm poo-pooing on the whole the thing people say about how if you want to be a content creator, you have to niche down cuz otherwise people won't think you're specific enough. Yeah, fuck that. If you guys want to watch, you can watch. If you don't want to watch, then that's all right. We're not meant for each other. Or maybe we're just not meant for each other yet. Who knows? Who knows what the future might bring? Anyway, if you guys are just listening to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I urge you to watch the actual video because I'm sitting like a child. And sometimes I think I'm a little entertaining to watch. Other times, not so much. Anyway, moving on. So today is a very special episode because I am turning 25 at the end of this week, my friends. And truthfully, that doesn't mean much to me because age is just another one of those social constructs that we create. But also, it does mean a lot because, I mean, it's the quarter life mark. That's kind of cool. I've made it this far. So, that being said, for today's episode, I want to just list off 25 things that I have learned in my experience on this planet. And I hope that some of it's relatable. I hope that it's enjoyable to listen to. I hope that you guys get a kick out of it. That's all I really ever hope. So, with that said, I'm going to get things started here. Oh, also, before I begin, sorry, I'll begin in a second. Before I begin, though, guys, check out my new room. For those of you who are not frequent listeners of the podcast, I just moved to New York 2 months ago. So I'm just getting everything settled in, and the bedroom is finally vibey. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm like so stoked. I have these plants. You guys can't actually see them. You know what? I'm gonna pan so you guys can see. So, this is Liana. I named her Liana because that's what she's called in Ukrainian. I come from a Ukrainian household, if you guys are not aware of that. And this actual plant is called a Liana. And because sometimes I don't want to be creative, I named her Liana. And this is my palm tree plant that I love very dearly. However, I have not come up with a name for this plant. So right now, its name is just Liana's friend. And then here, I'm gonna pick this one up, it's tiny. Here we have my little succulent that is outgrowing its pot. I need to replace the pot with something larger, but I also don't have a name for this plant either. So this is Liana's neighbor. But I didn't want to just name them Liana, Liana 1, Liana 2, because that's just silly. So we have Liana, we have Liana's friend, and Liana's neighbor. Anyway, we're going to move on. In no particular order, I have a list of 25 things that I have learned either this past year or just kind of generally over the past few years that I spent the past year really solidifying because I've worked a lot on myself. I've done a lot of personal development and growth over the course of 2023. So, without further ado, let's talk about it. Number 1, you don't have to do everything alone. So this is something I actually had to force down my throat because I have always struggled with the fear of being seen and being wrong, the fear of appearing weak. And it took me a really long time to understand that vulnerability is not a weakness, it is a strength. And when you admit that you don't know something or when you admit that you can't do something on your own, you'd be surprised at how many people would love to help you along the way, because people forget, including myself, we all forget that human beings, for the most part, we like to help others. We love to feel useful to others. Most people love acts of service. It's not everyone's top love language, but that doesn't mean that everybody doesn't love doing it. Everyone loves to feel valued and important. So when you admit that you need help with something, just see what happens. The right people come to you, and usually those are the people that you end up building really, really amazing relationships with in the future. And you're probably going to help them out with something as well. So it's like, just have the humility. Have the humility to admit that you need help with things, no matter what it is. Let people help you make your dreams come true. Point blank, period. All right, the next thing I wrote down was your intuition will guide you where you're meant to go. So everybody and their mother talks about intuition, but for good reason. Intuition is real. And it took me so long to start following my intuition and not stifle my gut instincts. But I've found as I've grown older that the more that I let myself just do things, even if they might not make sense in the moment, because I have that gut instinct, like I need to do this thing, it works out. It really works out. And similarly, sometimes your gut is gonna tell you not to do things. And just try to listen to your gut. I'm not gonna get into super deep details because it's embarrassing. But last year, actually, no, it's not embarrassing because, fuck it, I'm not embarrassed. But last year, I got scammed. And I had such a strong gut feeling that I shouldn't do the thing that I did that ended up making me get scammed. But the person who scammed me literally pulled out all the stops. Like, this human being played me like a fucking violin, and I let them. And honestly, I showed the correspondence to everyone who would listen at the time because I was like, oh my God, I got scammed. And everyone agreed with me that I would have done the same thing. I wouldn't have seen any red flags because this person covered all their bases. However, I had a gut feeling and I did not honor that gut feeling, and then I got scammed. So that was just like my final last learning lesson from the universe where I was like, okay, I will be more careful and I will also follow my gut instinct. My intuition is stronger than I give it credit for. And yeah, so let's move on. Number 3, it's okay if your dreams evolve or change into something new. Oh my God. I'm so glad I finally learned this. And this might come as common knowledge for some people, but for me, somebody who, feels the need to really see things through, and if I don't, I feel like there's something wrong with me. I had to really, really work and journal and reflect to understand that it is so normal and so okay if your goals change. And again, I know it sounds silly, but for me, for instance, I went to college for musical theater. And honestly, at this point in my life, I really don't want to be on Broadway. That was my dream when I was in college. Today, couldn't care less. I could not care. If I went to an audition and I booked a Broadway role, holy fuck would I be excited. But is that something that I need to feel fulfilled in life? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so for so long, I was like, what is wrong with me? Do I just not care about my dreams? Do I not care about what I set out to do? And then it finally clicked over the past year that your dreams just evolve and change as you grow older. And that's just okay. And I think that a lot of us can be driven by our egos often. And so we forget that letting go can allow us to free ourselves to find the other things that bring us joy and passion and excitement. And I stopped feeling those things for my dream to be on Broadway. And once I just kind of let go of that, I just felt so less limited. So that is number 3. Number 4, only saying sorry when it's necessary. Okay, can everyone watching, listening, whatever, just like, can we all agree? Can we pinky swear, virtually pinky swear, to not say sorry unless we actually should say sorry? Unless it is like genuinely a pull from our conscience. And I'm not talking about your involuntary instincts. I'm talking about your conscience. Like when somebody bumps into you and you say, I'm sorry, you have nothing to apologize for. They got in your way. They were looking down at their phone. They weren't paying attention. And you have to apologize on their behalf? Absolutely not. Or just like when you're, say, I don't know, holding a conversation with somebody and you disagree with them and you're like, I'm sorry, I have to disagree. No, you're not. You're not sorry. So don't, like, this is going to be another point that I talk about, but like, I've just done so much reflection on the intentionality of words over the past year. And I realized, like, if I don't mean it, I don't want to say it. Because my words hold power. So when I say sorry, when it's not necessary, also, a lot of people find it annoying. Honestly, like, once I came to this revelation, I started getting irritated when people said, I'm sorry for no reason. It also depends on who it is. Like, if I really like the person, if they're a great person, and, like, they're cute and nice and quirky and fun, like, it's hard. It's hard for me to get annoyed by people I love. However, I still tell them, no, why are you apologizing? Like, I call people out now when they apologize for no reason, because we should not, collectively, we should not be wasting energy on apologizing for literally nothing. All right, point blank period. Let me move on. Number 5. Ooh, I love this one. You can reframe everything. So I got inspired by this point because, well, one, I have been learning to reframe everything in my life that has stifled me in the past. This actually got on this list because of a podcast episode Emma Chamberlain made. However, although she brought it to my attention, this is something that I have been working on for the past year. And I was like, oh my God, I need to talk about that. So in this podcast episode, she's talking about all the things that she thinks will be out in 2024. And she talks about, like, basically beating yourself up about things. And she uses going to the gym as an example. Like when you fall off your fitness routine and you, like, bully yourself about it and you feel guilty. Guilty was the word that she was using. When you feel really guilty for not doing something that you feel like you should be doing, instead, just use that as fuel and excitement and inspiration to go to the gym. Instead of sitting in those negative emotions, instead, use that awareness like, oh, I haven't been to the gym. I fell off my routine. You know, like, I'm going to get back on my routine. I'm going to go. Let's go. Let's do it. So that's a perfect example of how reframing can just change your life. Reframing is just one of the most powerful things that has helped me literally transform my relationship with myself and how I communicate with myself. And it's such an important aspect of, I think, just growing up in general, because after a certain point, we all know this, we have to parent ourselves. I'm going to put my hands down because I'm talking a lot with my hands, and maybe I should not. Anyway, so this is just like, and you can use it for anything. Reframing it's like a superpower when you get the hang of it. For instance, like, I'm still finding a second job in New York. I moved to New York 2 months ago. I got a job as soon as I got here. It's not a full-time gig. It's a performing job. I'm still working on finding a secondary job that works with the schedule of my current job. So old me would literally get into limiting beliefs central and get so worked up about the job hunting process. And like, I would probably feel so limited by the fact that I need to work around a schedule that I already have. However, now I'm honestly seeing it as an opportunity to kind of have some fun and get creative with what kind of jobs I could do and really push myself to think outside the box. Next up, number 6, speaking and living intentionally clears up a lot and makes you respect yourself more and raises other people's respect for you. All right, guys, let's be real. Think about somebody in your life that you know who lives very intentionally. Maybe not in your life, maybe it's somebody famous, whoever. Just think about somebody who, the moves that they make are intentional. They do things for a reason. They don't just kind of la-di-da throughout life. And, la-di-daing is la-di-daing is also a very useful trait to have when it is appropriate. It's important to not take things too seriously all the time. However, being able to live intentionally, I would say around 70 to 80% of the time, it can profoundly change just the way that you interact in life. Like the way you interact with others, the way that you appear at work, the way that you show up at the gym, the way that you feed your body. Like feeding your body is such a just perfect, simple example of that. Eating healthy because you are what you eat. That is such a easy example of intentional living. And what I have found for myself, as well as seen in other people that I look up to, is when you begin to live more intentionally and navigate life in more intentional ways, the respect you get from others skyrockets. People look at you and they just respect you more. It's just very difficult to not respect somebody who walks through life in a very meaningful way. Either you're intimidated by them and so therefore you convince yourself that you dislike them and you resent them, or you take the reframed positive perspective and you feel a sense of respect for them and a sense of inspiration from them. Number 7, we are all problematic and fucked up. I mean, this one's just so comforting to know because let me explain. I don't want the entire world to suffer. I want everyone to feel good about themselves. However, a lot of us can get tunnel vision and really just criticize our shortcomings and our mistakes and also our traumas, our baggage, and we forget that everyone around us has shit. That's why it's important to be kind to people. That's why it's important to not project your problems onto others as if they don't have their own BS to deal with. So, that I think there's enough said there. So, moving on. Number 8, letting go of control over pointless shit sets you free. Stop micromanaging. I love this one. To those of you listening who don't have control issues and don't micromanage things, I just want to give you the biggest high five, because for the rest of us who do struggle with control issues, it's such a major distraction. And I have worked very hard over the past, honestly, very recently. It's been the past 4 or so months, I've really become aware, I like to control things, especially when I'm stressed out. I feel like things need to be, I get OCD about things. I even mentioned in an old episode how I stopped folding my underwear because I realized how pointless of a chore it was. I literally folded my underwear, and I'm not the only one. So I know it's not that crazy, and some people really benefit from folding their underwear. They want their underwear drawer to look like a Victoria's Secret underwear drawer. For me, at first, I was like, oh my God, yeah, that's so me. I love that. It's so cute, so color coordinated. No. Not anymore. Nowadays, my underwear comes out of the dryer and I toss it into my drawer. It's a mess. It's beautiful. It is a nice, clean mess of underwear. Because I realized how much energy I was wasting. And that's just one example of how letting go of control has benefited my life. It has benefited my life in pretty much every aspect that I have applied it. Another great example, and I'm aware I need to stop talking as much about each and every one of these because I literally have 25 points to make. Anyway, we'll get through them. Just one quick thing. So, as a performing artist, I struggled with crippling perfectionism to the point where I literally just didn't post any of my singing videos. And I still struggle with that. Actually, the week of my birthday, I'm planning on posting a video every single day of the week because my birthday is on a Sunday. So we're having a birth week blast on social media for literally no reason, but just because I should celebrate myself and getting this far in life because that's pretty cool. And I should be just lucky to be alive. Anyway. But in my heart, I know that I'm an excellent singer, and I love watching videos of myself sing, especially the older ones that old perfectionistic me refused to do anything with. So it's so utterly obvious to me now how easy it is to let perfectionism and control issues stifle you from going after things you want, from freeing up space, freeing up mental clutter. Like, oh my gosh, when I let go of that shit, all of a sudden my entire world just became more relaxed. And also something I noticed was nothing changed. Nothing bad happened. Nothing fucking changed after I stopped folding my underwear. It didn't make me a worse person. And again, I know I sound cray-cray, but like I'm being authentic because that's what the internet should be for. More people should be authentic. Anyway, we're going to move on. Number 9, irresponsible restrictions can often backfire. Yeah. This one goes out to anyone and everyone who has struggled with disordered eating. I'm not going to get into details because it's a triggering topic. However, it can be very easy to restrict yourself heavily with the best intentions, but I've found that our brains often don't do well with severe restriction, and it can oftentimes just lead us to like almost act out against ourselves for restricting so heavily in the first place. And I'm going to leave that there because eventually I will do an episode on disordered eating, but now is not the time because it's a very delicate subject that I want to handle with a lot of care and planning, and we still have a lot to talk about. All right, so number 10, there is room for you even when you feel like there isn't. Wow, this one is so delicious. This is such a great realization that I made. For the longest time, I just didn't post podcast episodes. You guys wouldn't believe how many unfinished episodes I have in my computer that I didn't feel confident enough in, and I let myself believe that, there's not room for me on the internet. There's a lot of fucking people on this planet, and there's a lot of people on the internet, and there's plenty of room for all of us. Let's be real. Like, whether I get 10 followers from this or 10 million followers, that'd be crazy. Also weird. There's room for all of us. It's really that simple. There are people out there who want to hear what you have to say or see what you have to make, listen to what you have to compose. Like, there is room for all of us, no matter what you want to do in life. There's room for you. There absolutely is. Like, think about how many fucking people are on the planet. There's a circle for you somewhere. If you haven't found it yet, there is. if you want to be a content creator or you want to put some sort of work that you have out there and you are telling yourself that there's not room for yourself, that is a limiting belief. That is not fact. I want you to reevaluate that and then come back to the desire of wanting to do the thing that you want to do and just do it. Just do it. Life's too freaking short. Life is literally too short. And that is so funny that I just said that because that is literally my next point. Number 11 is life is short. Life is so short, guys. I'm baffled at how short life can be, and I've been struck with the awareness this past year. A lot of people very close to me have lost family members and almost lost family members. And I've just seen a lot of health problems appear for a lot of people that I know. And life can be so short. And that's not fair, but it's a fact of life. And so with that, we need to live our lives as best as we fucking can. Take the risks that we were afraid to take yesterday. Push ourselves to grow. Push ourselves to test our limits. Try new things. And also, relax more. Like, let ourselves have a day off. Let ourselves just literally do nothing but stare at a cloud all day. Life is short, so make space to enjoy it and make space for the people who are important in your life. Oh my gosh, make space for love, make space for friendship, make space for just making life as beautiful and colorful and radiant and delicious as you can, because life is short. And I'm going to move on. Number 12. If you're living a certain way because you feel like you have to, and that's what others expect of you, you got to check your priorities. Oh my God. This literally goes back to when I was talking about how it took me a really long time to accept the fact that I didn't want to pursue musical theater as my main thing anymore. And like, here's the thing. For so long, I was like, oh, well, I went to college for this. My family expects me to. My friends, my colleagues do. Let me tell you something, guys. No one cares that much. Truly, most people don't. They just want to see you happy. Like, everyone is so goddamn focused on everything they have going on in their own lives that truthfully, yes, everyone who loves you and cares about you wants to see you succeed. But if you've changed in some sort of way and you want to live your life in a different way, the people who matter will support you. So don't let other people's expectations of you hold you back from doing what you want. All right. Number 13, this one kind of branches off of 12. Not living for yourself is a disservice to the rest of the world around you. Ooh, this is a good one. Each and every one of us has so much value to offer this world. And if only we embraced more of what lit us up, we would be able to do that. Like, no matter what it is for you that lights you up, it could be being a car mechanic or a baker or a content creator or a singer or a doctor, whatever it is that inspires you, that lights you up and that makes you want to get up in the mornings. If you have that passion, if you have that drive, trust me, it's there for a reason. You were built the way you are built because you're meant to push forward and shine that light to the rest of the world. Because not everyone can do what you can do. Like, I think about this with my singing sometimes. Yeah, there are plenty of singers on the planet. So, like, yeah, plenty of people can do what I do. But maybe there's no one who can sing a certain thing exactly like I can. And maybe there's no one who can, like, talk about a certain topic in the exact same way that I do. So just know that even if it's the tiniest little details that make you unique, you have value to offer in the things that light you up, and don't stifle them. Even if you just want to be a hobbyist, like, not everything that you do has to be monetized and become your career, but even if you're just like passionate about certain hobbies, practice those hobbies. Just like, let your light shine. Point blank. I've been saying point blank a lot in this episode. Okay, let's move on. 14. Being at peace with where you are is part of growth. Oh my God. Guys, this is just honestly another way of saying patience is a virtue. Being able to just sit where you're at in your journey, wherever that may be, even if you're just dying to get to the next point in your life, the next point in your path, just it's so lovely to just be able to sit in the place that you're at, even if it's uncomfortable, and be like, this is where I'm at right now. Because one day you're going to be looking back on it and you're going to be like, wow, like I should have enjoyed the time that I had. Like for me, for instance, right now, I'm still finding work to supplement my current job. I am trying my absolute hardest to just enjoy this time and make the best of it and apply as much as I can for freelancing positions, for like random short film projects that I find online, random just anything that can fill up my time with substance. Because yes, it's not the most comfortable time for me to not be fully employed full time. However, I could put a lot of pressure on myself for putting myself in this position, or I could use this time mindfully and wisely and just really embrace this kind of strange period of the unknown where I don't know what's going to necessarily happen, and really enjoy that and really savor it, because life is ever changing. All right. Number 15, you don't have to show up as your best self to show up. What a delicious thing. I really had to really swallow this. There's a lot of talk on the internet about being your best self, being your highest self, showing up as the best version of yourself, but no one really talks as much about how, actually no, plenty of people talk about it, but it's not as widely spread. People seem to not focus as much on just showing up as we are. And some days your best self is not that great. Sometimes your best self on a given day is she feels like she's in the gutters. This whole talk about your best self is really excellent because it encourages a sense of personal growth and development, but it's also really important to know that even if you're not at your best, you can still show up and do the fucking thing. For instance, even if I'm not feeling my best and I go to work that day and my coworkers are like, hey, how are you doing? It's okay for me to be like, today's not the best day, but I'm still here and I'm doing my best. And you know what most people say, most normal people who are compassionate and, have a heart, they're like, that's so okay. We appreciate you. Or, oh my God, I'm also not feeling that great. And then it opens up a dialogue and people realize, oh, I don't have to pretend to be perfect. I can just be as I am. And you're still worthy of love. You are still whole, even when you're not feeling as such. So that is what I have to say on that point. Number 16, spirituality has made me more stable. This is subjective because not everyone is a spiritual person, but I just had to throw it in there because the closer that I get to my spirit guides, my spiritual self, the more that I pray and the more that I meditate and connect to my higher self, even though I know I just spoke negatively about the higher self, I still believe in the higher self. The more that I do that work, the more I feel like I can just conquer anything. The more I feel like the world is my oyster. And the more I give myself grace for moments that I might not be able to show up at my best. And I can go so much deeper into this topic, and we don't have the time to. So I'll talk about this a little bit more on another episode, but spirituality, man. All right. Number 17, breathwork and meditation creates space for your mind to fix itself. So true. I'm sorry, it like feels a little self-masturbatory every time I have like a really positive reaction to something that I wrote down. Mind you, these are lessons that I learned from other people. Like, I'm not gassing myself up. I feel like some of my responses to my own points are a little inappropriate. Some of them really, like, some of them I forgot I even wrote down, and I'm like, that was a good one. But seriously, oh my gosh, if you have anxiety or depression, or your mind races, because my mind races a lot, and it has been racing a lot recently because of my current situation. And I can't even begin to explain how just healing it has been to just allow myself to sit with myself and meditate and practice breath work. And what I mean by giving your mind space to fix itself is that's basically what happens when, for those of you who are not familiar with how meditation and mindfulness works, when you meditate, you basically are just allowing yourself to watch your thoughts and be aware of them, but not identify with them, because you are not your thoughts. You are actually like your highest self, or your more like your spiritual, energetic life force within you. It can watch your thoughts. It is not your thoughts. And this is something I'm going to talk about in another episode in more depth. But when you just agree with yourself that I'm just going to sit and let my stressors run their course. And you don't have, like, here's the thing, meditation is not about shutting off your brain. It's about letting your brain do its thing. Because what happens is that when you do that for long enough, eventually your brain just starts to sort thoughts out on its own. You don't need to force yourself to find the answers, because the answers are oftentimes intuitively already in you, but you're thinking so hard and you're over intellectualizing to the point where you can't find those answers. All right, enough said. I'm going to move on. Number 18, I just wrote down human doing / human being. This I was inspired to put down by one of my favorite podcasters, Kayla Rose. She has the Skinny Dipping podcast. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's amazing. I'm obsessed with it. I'm sure it's on other platforms as well, but those are the two that I use interchangeably. So basically what this bullet point means is we as human beings oftentimes are on the hamster wheel, and we feel like in order to feel valuable, we need to be productive. And this challenges that, because she says you are not a human doing, you are a human being. And human being, which is literally like being, is what people use to describe meditation and mindfulness. Like, that is you just being. But you can be in many other different ways. You can be just laying in the grass and hanging out. Maybe like you and your partner, or you and your friends go and just have a picnic and just lay around. And so many people feel bad about spending their time that way, but the thing is we all need to just be sometimes. Just like every other mammal on the planet, they need time to rest just like us. And mindful, allowed rest allows us to recharge in a really beautiful way. And it like, then when we recharge and we allow ourselves to rest and we allow ourselves to just be, the next time we gotta do shit, we're ready to do shit. And we're cyclical beings. We're not always meant to be grinding 24/7. It's important to let yourself sit back. Even the most brilliant minds, especially a lot of the most brilliant minds, take space to meditate. They take space to step away from their projects so that when they return to them, their mind is fresh with ideas. They have more vitality and more energy to offer their practice or their craft. A lot of people meditate. What can I say? You got to try it. It's like, it's kind of in. And just to list off a few examples of famous and successful people who meditate: Madonna, Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, Jennifer Aniston, Clint Eastwood, and so many. Gwyneth Paltrow. Are any of us surprised? A lot of people meditate. So if you don't, I urge you to look into it. It's life-changing, and I will do more episodes on mindfulness. Okay, so number 19 is learning to assert boundaries when you're not good at it. Feels very uncomfortable at first. That means you're growing. Boundaries are such an important part of life, guys. Without learning how to assert boundaries, we truly will never be able to achieve the life that we really want for ourselves, because in order to get our dream lives, we can't just be like drifting through the waters, letting all the rocks hit us, and like we need to stand our ground. Sometimes we can't just let people do whatever the fuck they want with us, right? Setting boundaries is not easy when you haven't been taught to do that when you were a kid. Honestly, everything goes back to childhood, let's be real. But the more that you do it, the more you strengthen that part of yourself. It's a neural pathway that you just have to strengthen and believe in. And the more you do it, like the first time you start really asserting boundaries, it feels so insane. You feel invigorated. You feel like you're doing something wrong. You feel bad. You feel guilty for setting completely valid and rightful boundaries for yourself and your comfort and your just self-preservation. But if you're not used to doing it, it's so uncomfortable. And then eventually you do it more and more and more. And even now when I assert boundaries, I'm like, I did that. I asserted some boundaries. Like, shit. I feel proud of myself, but I don't get the same rush of anxiety that I used to. So that's just really important for anyone who struggles with boundaries. It takes time, and it takes like patience with yourself and knowing that it's going to feel uncomfortable. However, if you feel like you literally cannot continue life the way that you are living it, if you don't set boundaries, that means it's time for you to start setting some fucking boundaries. All right. Number 20, we're so close. Okay, your projections are your insecurities. It takes a lot of self-awareness, and it takes a lot of patience with yourself, and it takes a lot of self-compassion to admit this. But when you get worked up at other people for doing shit that like is normal, your insecurities are driving you to act out in a certain way. Or maybe if it's not acting out, it's just thinking out. I don't know what the proper phrase for that might be, but I'm not afraid to admit it. I've projected so much in the past. I think we all have. Like when we get insecure and we start making assumptions about other people that might not be as positive as we would like them to be, oftentimes it's our insecurities surfacing, and we can usually identify it really easily in other people. And then when we do it, like if we're gonna call people out on their bullshit, we gotta call ourselves out on our bullshit. Otherwise, we're never gonna grow. And I think we all want to grow. I think we all want to be better than yesterday. Number 21, you will always want more no matter how much you achieve. That's why it's important that you take time to enjoy the journey. Yeah, this is why presence and mindfulness and meditation, and even if you don't meditate, some people hate meditation, even if like, no matter what it is, like cleaning, doing like one of my friends juggles, like there are so many things that are meditative that aren't meditation itself. It's so important to have those practices because it forces you to just look around you. I was just talking with my boss literally the other day about how one of his favorite forms of, like, he calls it his therapy. Him and his friends will have jam sessions where like they all grab their instruments and they literally might do 4 songs, or like the people solo. Like it could turn into an hour-long session just with 4 songs because people are just really getting imaginative and they're really listening to each other and they're creating something fresh and new and creative and imaginative on stage. And I told him, well, that probably feels like therapy for you because you have to be present. Like, you have to be listening and responding to each other. And like, that takes you away from all of your worries in your head and all of the depressing or anxious thoughts that might be stifling you and keeping you from being present. Because in that moment, you will not be able to sing the song or play the song if you're not listening to the people around you. And that's why it feels so refreshing. That's why going to the gym feels refreshing. You have to literally listen to your body. You have to be present when you're at the gym. I mean, like, you can still zone out at the gym, but it's a lot harder to have a really effective workout where you're really, really listening to your body. So that was a bit of a tangent. But my point to this, circling back to my initial statement, is for our entire lives, no matter what you do in life, like, you get the 6-figure job, you buy the huge house, you buy the really nice car, you go and travel. If you don't take a moment to really soak in exactly where you are right now and practice that on a daily basis and practice that just throughout your life, no matter what you do in life, you're never going to feel completely fulfilled. You know, like, no accolade is equivalent to just the pure joy of being. They're incomparable. Number 22, you don't have to be great at everything. Like, you really don't. You don't have to be great at everything to enjoy the things that you do. I've been trying to become more of a hobbyist and not focus so much on just creating for work-related things, because I studied musical theater. I'm still a performer. I sing. And it's so easy to apply so much pressure on yourself when you expect yourself to be good at every single thing that you do. So lately, I've been having a fun, silly time learning how to play the ukulele. It's on my bed right now. Am I good at it? Not really. Is it still fun? Hell yeah, it is. And I've been kind of dabbling with some songwriting, which is something that used to really intimidate me because I was afraid of writing something bad. And now I'm like, if it's bad, who cares? I just want to write music and it'll mostly be for me. Same thing with poetry. I write so much bad poetry, but bad is so subjective because one man's trash is truly another man's treasure when it comes to art, or I think most hobbies. Like, perfectionism shouldn't be the goal when you're just trying to relieve stress, which is what your hobbies should do for you. So you don't have to be good at everything. This world has made us believe that we have to be good at everything, and it's okay to be mediocre at things and just enjoy them. And you become better at things over time when you don't put as much pressure on yourself. It's so much easier to get good at things when you don't hold yourself to a certain standard or put pressure on yourself. Moving on. Number 23. Tunnel vision will thwart you from the future that you want. Ooh, it really will. It really will. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, if you don't, like, take time to look around you and just embrace the present moment, embrace what's going on around you, because here's the thing. If you're so focused on this tunnel vision idea of where you want to end up, you can so easily miss opportunities that come your way. Like, perfect example, I stumbled upon a job posting that has nothing to do with the arts, but it has a lot to do with something else that I'm really, really interested in. Not going to talk about it yet because we haven't gotten the job yet. But I went ahead and I applied, even though it has nothing to do with performing, because I was just like, well, I want to gain more skills. And this job would offer me a completely different skill set that I wouldn't get from performing. And then later on, I could actually marry those skill sets and they would really complement each other really well. But if I had a tunnel vision mindset where I wasn't paying attention to other opportunities around me and I was just focused on being a performer, I probably wouldn't have even noticed that job posting because I would have been too busy looking up things like singer and actor and performer and entertainer and yada, yada, yada. So look around you, smell the coffee, smell the roses, smell the garbage. Number 24, Calculated risks are necessary for growth, and growth usually hurts. Knowing how to identify growing pains and going after them will change your life. Yeah, so this is something that I've really committed to over the past year is if something intimidates me, and like I used to just run the opposite direction from things that intimidated me. Now, my rule of thumb is if it intimidates me, I have to do it because I'm not letting myself be run by fear. Fear is not the driving force of my life. The driving force of my life is me and light, love, inspiration. Those are the things that I want to drive my life. And if I want that to, like all of those things to be the driving force of my life, then I have to face my fears because I know that love will conquer my fears. I know that strength and my knowledge and all of the things that I have going for myself, just like you have things going for yourself, that will trump fear if I face it head on. And then usually once I do the scary thing, I'm like, that wasn't that scary. Like, I'm alive. Wow. Anyway, last thing. Oh my God, this is so exciting. Very last one. Fear and excitement are the same emotion, just interpreted oppositely. Okay, I'm gonna admit some of these branch off of each other and like they could be joined into one point, but I have to talk about 25 damn things, so I might as well make them somewhat connected. But this really branches off of what I was just talking about, where fear is very possible to reframe into excitement. So like, and also let's define what kind of fear I'm talking about. I'm not talking about jumping off a building. I'm not talking about like going on like the world's scariest roller coaster, unless you're an adrenaline junkie and you really want to do that. Like, I'm not going to yuck your yum, but it's not my vibe. Anyway, I'm more so talking about social anxiety and fear of leveling up in your career, fear of, or like intimidation of other people and making you feel unworthy and, like making you feel like you can't go after those things. Those are more so the types of things that I'm talking about. And I know that a lot of these are very collective, very universal experiences that a lot of us experience because we've been conditioned to. So when you acknowledge all of those emotions and you instead allow yourself to just face them and really evaluate like, okay, I'm afraid of this. So why am I afraid of this? And it does require a little bit of shadow work, not gonna lie. And I know shadow work is not easy, but it's always worth it in the end. And like I said, if you reach a point where you can no longer live your life in the way that you were, then it's time to do the shadow work. Like if you've outgrown the old you, and you know that one of the reasons why you're not progressing in life is because you have to do the shadow work, then you gotta do it. It's the bitter medicine that you gotta taste. And it's not gonna be pleasant. It's not. It's really not. But then eventually, it's not gonna taste so bitter after a while. After a while, you're gonna be used to it. And you're gonna be like, oh, this is fine. Maybe it's not always pleasant, but there are worse things in life. Anyway, so when we can reframe our thoughts on our anxieties, on our fears, and instead just acknowledge that this is what we need to grow, then you can start looking at it and being excited about that growth. And that's the excitement that I'm talking about. Like, obviously, it's hard to reframe fear into excitement, but what always works for me is the knowledge that I'm gonna grow if I do this thing. Like, I'm gonna be a better version of myself on the other side of this. That's fucking exciting. And then all of a sudden, fear starts to, sometimes it's still there. Oftentimes it's still there. But fear can be your friend. Oftentimes, fear actually is your friend because it's there to push you. Like, fear is actually often a sign that it's time for you to level up. It changes your life and it changes your relationship with yourself and how you communicate with yourself. And mindset, like I said, it's everything. All right, guys. So those were the 25 things that I've learned in my 25 years of life, slash the past year, slash the past couple years. These are the most important things that have been on my mind, basically, recently. So, all that being said, in honor of my birthday this week, I urge all of you guys to do something fun for yourselves because it's my birthday, and I use that as an excuse. Use that as an excuse to have a fun time this week. You never need an excuse to have a fun time. You should just be having a fun time. But seriously, guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening and tuning in and watching. If you're watching the video on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment below if you vibed or jived or resonated with any of this stuff. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please follow the podcast. Please like the episode. Engaging with my content this way really helps me grow. And also, if you know anybody who would vibe with this, please spread this podcast through word of mouth as well. That is another excellent way to just promote growth. And if you liked what you heard today, then please join the community. You are so welcome. And seriously, guys, what the heck? I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, and you're all wonderful. And please be gentle with yourselves, enjoy life, go after the things that you want. And lastly, as always, be kind to yourself. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Mwah. Oh my God. I did that. What? Oh my God. Wow. This is great. I did it. I finally did it. All right. I hope people are entertained by me. I hope they like this. No, I care. I do care. I'll admit it. I care. All right. That's all she wrote.